This is why you keep attracting toxic guys, and it's not bad luck. Okay, there's a little clue. I had a client once, let's call her CJ, who sat down on our first call, arms across, and she said the thing that I hear at least once a week. Okay, he keeps pressing all my buttons. He's pressing them. And look, I believe her. He probably does. Some guys are absolute freaking artists at this, okay? But I have done this for long enough to know that when a woman walks in wearing a giant sign that says button and it's taped to her chest, the more interesting question usually isn't why does he keep pressing it? It's why do you have a button in the first place? I know, rude. Stay with me though, okay? Because I promise this ends somewhere kind. Okay, when I asked her how many guys had pressed it, she reluctantly told me four different guys, okay, independently, who didn't know each other. They all walked up and found the exact same spot. So I said what I'll say to you right now. If four separate men from four separate corners of your life all reach out and press the same button, either they're in a group chat or there's a gigantic sign. Welcome to today's topic, the gigantic sign. By the way, my name's Cody. I've got a degree in cognitive neuroscience. I'm trained in trauma therapy called internal family systems, and I've studied this stuff for a living. Over 1 million women trust me to help them navigate breakups and heartbreak to prepare them for modern dating because I say the hard things, but I do it with love and I do it with science, okay? Let's dive into this one. It's a fun one, okay? When I asked CJ to describe the button, she gave me the surface version, the way we all kind of start, okay? He goes cold and I lose my mind. He pulls back and I chase. He gets distant and I turn into a person that I don't even freaking like. Classic textbook. Okay, anxious pattern here as an example, okay? And it's still not the real thing. So I slowed down a little bit and I asked her to feel where it lived in her body. Where's this part of her live or these parts of her live in her body when he goes quiet? Not to analyze it, just to notice it, okay? She described it, tight chest, buzzing hands, like we've all been there, okay? The specific flavor of dread that shows up before the actual thought does. And when I asked her what that feeling was really saying, not about him, about her, the joke that she was about to make to deflect died on the way out. Because underneath the button labeled, he won't text back, was a much older sign. And it read, I'm not worth staying for. Ouch. Yeah, okay. She's been carrying that one around for a long time, for years. Okay. Letting men press it like it's a freaking doorbell. And here's where almost everyone goes when they figure out they have a button. Okay. So I just need to find a man who won't press it. I get it. That feels like the logical fix. Okay, the problem is people pressing the button control the people. Screen harder, vet earlier, build a longer list of red flags, interview him like he is applying for a security clearance at an airport or something like that. Okay, this is what I call outside in work. Trying to fix an internal wound by rearranging the external world. That is a trap, not the men. The trap is solving an inside problem from the outside, okay? You will never screen your way out of this. You can't vet hard enough, red flag fast enough, or interview thoroughly enough to fix a signal you're broadcasting underneath your conscious thought. The pressers of the buttons are downstream, okay? The sign is upstream, which means the work isn't outside in, it's inside out. And the good news that's married in that little weird saying, okay, is huge, okay? Because if the sign is variable, then you were never at the mercy of the dating pool ever, okay? You're at the mercy of a sentence, and a sentence can be rewritten. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, of course, in this video, but I can't take down a sign, and neither can you, that you've never actually read, okay? So first, let's find out what some of the most common buttons that I see are, okay? These are the top 5 most common buttons that I see in my practice. Almost every button I see has a surface trigger sitting on top of an older sentence, an older wound, okay? Here are the 5 that come through my door the most. I'll hit on the buttons, what he's pressing, like the things that he's pressing, the signs that are kind of underneath them. So like what your system, your nervous system, your parts actually believe, and who they tend to attract and why, okay? Pay attention to which one makes your stomach drop a little bit. That's usually yours, okay? No shade. I have these buttons too, okay? But number 1 though is the bandit wound. It's the he went cold and I spiraled. The sign underneath this one a lot of the time is I'm not worth staying for. And who it tends to attract is hot and cold men. The dischargers, the ones who are all in for 6 weeks and then evaporate, okay? This is the deepest and most common one that I see for show, okay? For sure. When love once meant here, then suddenly gone, your amygdala learned to treat any withdrawal as a fire alarm, okay? So a man who pulls back doesn't just disappoint you, he confirms the oldest thing you believe about yourself. Yikes, okay? And here's kind of the cruel part. The panic reads as passion, right? The intensity of your fear of losing him gets mislabeled as the depth of your love for him, but that is not love. That's not love. That's a threat response, dude. Okay? This is a big one. Button number 2, earning button. Okay. The earning button is a big one. Ask me how I know about this one. Okay. I do everything and he does nothing. Okay. The sign underneath this is I have to earn love. It doesn't just come for free. Who this one is generally attracting? Surprise, surprise. Takers, underfunctioners, men happy to let you carry the entire relationship on your back and call it a partnership. If growing up, love was conditional on being good, being helpful, being easy, or achieving, your system learned that connection is a wage you earn, not a gift you receive. I call this emotional capitalism. I've talked about it before. I've written about it before. Okay. Overfunctioning in love to buy safety you should just be handed. You become the load-bearing wall of a relationship and you attract exactly the men who are content to lean, because a woman who believes she has to earn it will outgive anyone, and some men will happily let her. Okay, this isn't generosity though. This is a down payment on love you already freaking own. Okay, button number 3, the shrink button. Okay, he makes me feel like I'm too much. The sign underneath this, my bigness is dangerous. If I'm fully myself, I'll be a burden and I'll get left. Okay. All right. So who does this attract? Okay. So the men that need to be the biggest thing in the room, these subtly dismissing ones, the ones whose comfort quietly requires your smallness. High achieving women get this one a ton. Okay. Somewhere along the line, your intensity, your ambition, your feelings, your needs got a reaction, an eye roll, a withdrawal, you're so dramatic. And your system learned that being fully yourself costs you connection. So you self-edit. And a man who's threatened by this type of large woman is drawn to one who is already half through shrinking herself because she does the work for him, essentially. Okay. It's not that you're a burden. It's just these guys are drawn to this specific type of button and this specific type of wound because it's easier for them. They don't have to shrink themselves. You're already in the midst of doing it. Okay. Button number 4, the peacekeeper button. I don't want to make this a thing. Okay. Hear it all the time. The sign underneath this one, if I have needs, I lose the person. Keep the peace or be alone is kind of the conundrum that these people get stuck in. Okay. So who this one attracts is boundary pushers, controllers, men who mistake your accommodation for compatibility. This is a fawn response. The 4th F after fight, flight, and freeze. Okay. I wrote an entire blog about this, the neuroscience of fawn response. It's why you can't stop people pleasing. I'll put it in the description below if you want to check that out and go a little bit deeper. For our purposes today, if conflict at home once meant real danger or real withdrawal of love, your body learned that the safest move is to suppress your own needs before anyone else can reject them. So you go along, you keep it light. Okay. And a controlling man reads that softness as an open door. Every unspoken boundary is one that he never has to negotiate. That's not being easygoing though. That's a nervous system that learned that needs are a threat. Okay. And number 5, one of the biggest ones, the chosen button. I felt amazing when he chose me and awful the second he didn't. Okay. The sign underneath this one is I only exist. I'm only safe when someone picks me, when someone outside of myself chooses me. Who is this going to attract? The breadcrumbers, the keep you on hook types. Okay. The one who gives just enough to stay, but never long enough for it to land. Okay. If your earliest sense of worth got wired to being selected, chosen, approved of, and wanted, your self-esteem outsourced itself on other people's attention, affection, and validation. Being chosen becomes the drug, and the withdrawal is unbearable. So you'll tolerate almost anything to get the next hit of being wanted and chosen. Breadcrumbers are experts at this because unpredictable reward hits harder than reliable ones. Okay. It's the slot machine principles. It's intermittent reinforcement in neuroscience. Okay. It's the most powerful form of reinforcement there is. Okay. A man who gives just often enough isn't a bad bet. He's the best bet your reward system has at ever being seen and chosen. Okay. They're not offering a relationship though. They're offering intermittent proof that you're real. That's not being chosen though. Okay. That's you renting your worth from someone who keeps raising the freaking price. Right. Okay. And here's the part about all these different buttons that people don't want to hear. Okay. You probably found your button. Maybe, hopefully, maybe 2. Most of them are combo platters. Unfortunately enough, ask me how I know that. So now you grab the corner of the sign and you try to pull it. Okay. But it's not coming off. You pull harder. Nothing's happening. Why isn't this coming off? I can't get this off. And that's because it's not taped on there. Okay. This isn't taped on. It's a scar. And your system put it there for a reason. That button isn't sabotage. It's a smoke detector installed by a girl who genuinely needed one. Back then, staying hyper alert to withdraw, earning your keep, shrinking to stay safe, keeping the peace, chasing the next yes, those weren't flaws. They were brilliant life-saving adaptations. They kept the younger you connected to the people she could not afford to lose. So you're not broken. You're organized around a room, and that organization once kept you safe, which is exactly why you can't just rip it off, shame it away, or affirm it away. Okay, you just scream in a river and hopefully it disappears. It doesn't work. Okay, you don't remove a smoke detector by yelling at it. You go find the girl who installed it and let her know that the fire is out. Okay, I get it, Cody. I get it. I get it, right? I have a sign. It's a scar. Very poetic. Thank you. But what do I actually do? What do I do about it? That's a great question, Karen. It's a great freaking question. Here's the tool. Ring the bell yourself. The next time it goes quiet or distant or hot or cold or whatever presses your specific button, you're going to feel it. The surge, the chest, the hands, the dread. In that exact moment, you do not text him. You do not analyze him, screenshot him, or draft the paragraph. You ask yourself one question. What is this reminding me of? Not what is he doing? Not what does this mean about us? What is this reminding me of? Okay. This is why it works. When you ask, what is he doing? You stay in the fight with him, externalized, activated, outside in. When you ask, what is this reminding me of? You're going inside out, right? Your body answers immediately and it will not say his name. I almost guarantee it will not say his name. Okay. It'll say something older, a bedroom door closing, a parent's turned back, a specific age. Okay. The second you hear that, see that, feel that, something shifts. You're no longer in a fight with him. You're finally in the room with her inside of yourself, the little one who installed a smoke detector. That's the only room where the button comes off, where you can work on these scars and these deeper woundings, okay? And if you're curious what to do once you're in the room, you know I got you, okay? This is where IFS shines, baby. I freaking love this, okay? And so here's a preview of what you can start to do for yourself inside of the room or with an IFS practitioner or therapist that can help you through this stuff, okay? But step number one is, again, asking the question so that you can get into the room through the door. This is what happens next, though, okay? It's how you actually update the part that's been holding the sign. It's small reps, they're unsexy, okay? And it's exactly how the wiring gets changed, okay? So the first thing you got to do is find it in your body. Don't narrate it, locate it. Where does this surge live? Your throat, your chest, your gut, your shoulders? Where's that? Put your hand there. You're not trying to fix it yet. Just be with it and just focus on where you feel it in your body first. Then notice how you feel towards this part. How does that inner parent, yourself with a capital S, feel towards this part? Is it annoyed for spiraling again? That's another part, right? If a part of you is annoyed at one of these buttons or one of these deeper wounds, okay, that is another part of you, okay? And see if you can find even a sliver of curiosity towards the anxious one or whichever part that you're focused on. Curiosity is the doorway, okay? If you stay frustrated at this part of you, it's going to stay locked, right? You're not going to get to talk with it. So if you can bring curiosity and compassion to this part, I promise you'll be in a much better place by the end. Then you've got to unblend from it, okay? So you can say this internally or out loud. I say it out loud all the time, that this is a part of me, not all of me. This is a part of me is anxious. A part of me is sad. A part of me is a people pleasing, not me. You are the calm adult noticing the panic. You are not the panic. You're not your parts, right? This little tiny bit of separation is where your agency really truly lives. Okay. Then again, you got to get curious and not corrective. You're asking this thing questions to understand it, listen, validate it, give it attention, love, affection. Okay. Ask the part, how old are you? What do you want me to know about you? What is your job? What's your intention? What's your hope for me? Okay. What are you afraid will happen if you stop sounding this alarm? And then actually listen. It's usually protecting a much younger part of you from a much deeper hurt. IFS calls these exiles, okay? Your protectors are guarding your deepest wounds, your exiled parts, to keep them locked away so you don't have to re-experience that, okay? For these protected parts, the next step here is just updating these parts on what they just don't know, okay? This is the reconciliation move, okay? You got to let the part know that you're an adult now. I'm grown. You can survive being left. You can leave too. You don't even have to wait to be left, okay? It doesn't have to scan the exits anymore. You've got this. You're much older now. They oftentimes don't know you're older, okay? You're not deleting the alarm. You're not trying to get rid of these parts. You're relieving it of a job. It's been white knuckling since childhood all by itself and letting it know it's not alone anymore. You're here. If you do this enough times, the button doesn't get pressed in the same way because the sign underneath was rewritten by the one person who was always able to rewrite it. You. Okay. I get this question a lot. What about truly toxic guys? Glad you asked. Okay. Taking the sign down is not the same as saying that he was a good guy. Some of these men are genuinely toxic, manipulative, avoidance, careless, coercive, cruel. That's real. And it's not your fault. And nothing about this blog excuses a single thing that they did. But here's the line I want you to hold both halves of. Okay. He wasn't a good guy. And men like that don't find you by accident. Both can be true. Okay. His behavior is his own to own. Absolutely. I'm here for that. And who keeps showing up in your life is the one part of this equation that runs through you, which means it's the one part that you actually have power over. Okay. You can't control whether toxic men exist. They do. They always freaking will. You can control whether you're wearing the sign that makes you their preferred customer. That's not blame. Okay. That's the best news in this entire freaking video because it means the fix was never find better men. It was always in reach. It's in you, okay? Take the sign down and watch you stop showing up. When the sign comes down, you don't lose toxic men, okay? You gain yourself. You start speaking up before the resentment builds. You hold boundaries without 3-day anxiety hangover. Stable, kind, available men stop reading as boring and start reading as home, okay? The whole field changes because you changed the signal. How's that for interagency, baby? Okay, it's time to remove the freaking button. You've been carrying the sign for a long freaking time. okay? Long enough that it started to feel like your personality, like your type, like just the way love goes for you. But it isn't, okay? It's a scar with the doorbell on it, and you're allowed to stop answering the freaking door. The next time he goes cold, the surge hits, you know the question now, okay? Don't ask what he's doing. Ask what it's reminding you of, and then go into the room with her, that little one, okay? That's where the whole thing starts to change. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another video. And if you want to go deeper on these types of topics, you'd love my Becoming Her community, where I go live and answer questions about these exact kinds of things. It will help you go from heartbreak to secure love in 63 days. Check it out in the description below. I believe in you. You guys have got this. Peace out.